Hello stitching friends, this is Jackie from Cross My Stitches. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do a finishing how-to, a tutorial. You can call it a tutorial, but it's kind of like a how-to on how I finish my stockings. I have mentioned it before several times that most of my finishing techniques I have learned from Vanna, the Twisted Stitcher. She is on YouTube, as well as the Twisted Stitcher at blogspot.com. And I take a lot of the techniques that she shows and puts them into my my finishing. So today I'm going to finish the stocking. I've had several people ask about how I finish the stockings, so I thought I would share that with you today. So I have my stocking here. It's already pressed and it has interfacing on the back. So I use a mid-weight interfacing. I want it to be a little stiff and I want it to stand up to time. So it is done in a mid-weight. I have the piece of backing I'm going to use. I've already ironed this piece, also has mid-weight interfacing on the back, and then two pieces for the lining, which are also lined. So that way my stocking will have lots of body and be able to just stand there and not look like it's folded over or wrinkled or anything. It'll be very firm. So the first thing that I do when I'm doing this is I outline my stocking for my cut lines. Now when I sew this, I'm going to sew it down the actual stitching line. So that's what I'm going to follow when I stitch, is this line. But I want to give it a good 1/2 inch cut line all the way around it. And then I will, after I do that, then I will cut the other one. So what I do is I just take my ruler, and this particular ruler, I just go at a 1/2 inch, I line it up, and I use a pencil. Because you can use a pen or anything, it doesn't matter. I just happen to use a pencil. And what I'll do is just line it with the pencil. You can see the line there. And just keep going around 1/2 inch. And making sure that I've got it the way I want it. And it doesn't really matter if it's perfect or not, because you will not see this. This is cut line. So I'm going to move this to make it easier for me to see what I'm doing. It doesn't matter if the lines overlap, they don't overlap. Like I said, this is a cut line. So you can see I'm just making lines so I can make the corner, so I can make it a 1/2 inch all the way around. Okay, so as you can see, it's got the line all the way around, and there's multiple lines. I'm just going to follow the inside line all the way around, and I'm going to cut this out. So I think I'm going to use my rotary cutter, because it might be a little easier than trying to snip it around. So the first cut I'm going to make is this one. Make sure I got all my fabric in there. Ooh, that feels loose. Okay. And of course you could use scissors and cut all the way around it. You don't have to have a rotary cutter. It's just quicker, especially while I'm doing a video, to get it cut. So I'm gonna, and when it has straight lines, I'm just gonna use a ruler to cut it, and then on the curved ones I'll just freehand it. Because I know my stitches are going to go all along the seam, all the way across. I might go a tiny bit away from the seam. We'll see how I do. That part off, line it back up, and just follow the cut line. get my ruler back and do this straight line. Let's see, let's get it lined up. There we go. So now my stocking is cut out, and I'm going to use this as a template to cut out the other 3 pieces. Now I want to make sure that I'm cutting them in the right facing, okay? Because this will be the backing of the stocking. I need to cut this out backwards so that when it matches the foot, because you're not doing anything square, you're actually doing a shape. So you want to make sure that they match. So I'm going to lay this out on here, and I probably will pin it. Let's see, where are my pins? And just pin it down so I don't make a mistake. Or it slips, or, you know, that the cutting isn't right, because I don't have any extra fabric. So I want to make sure that I get the cut correct. And some of this cut I will do the ruler too on the straight cuts, but I'm going to hand cut all these curves with a pair of scissors. So as I'm doing this, I'm just going to speed this up a little so you don't have to watch me do this, and then I'll slow it down when I get to the next step. Okay, so now I'm going to cut out the backing. Okay, so there we go. Now, I'm trying to decide if I want to use, I'm going to hang on to part of this. If I'm going to use it for a hanger, or if I'm going to use some of the cording, because I did get cording as well. So this is the cording that I bought to put on it. It does come with a selvage to it, but it is just stitched onto the cording. It can be cut off, and I'm going to cut it off because I cannot get my sew machine to sew close to this to make it look right, to sew it in. So I'm going to glue mine in. I know that sounds horrible to some people, but that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to glue all this in, because when you put the 2 seams together and you've got this sandwich between the 2 things, because it has to be sandwiched in, it's very hard to get your needle up against where it needs to go and see where you need to stitch with this in the way. Now I could do this, if I put it up there, that is a 1/2 inch, and it would go just in the right spot. But I am so nervous about doing it, I don't know. We'll see, because normally I glue it, but maybe I'll get adventurous here and try to do it sewing it, we'll see. But it's not necessary. For those of you that don't sew, trust me, you can do it with glue. So I'm just going to trim up this piece that I just saved so I can use it as the hanger, and I'm trying to decide, okay, I think I'm going to just save a 2-inch piece. There we go. Just make sure my ends are straight. Okay, so we're going to save that. I may use this by folding it and folding it, and then so it'll be a hanger like this on the stocking. Oops, sorry, camera. So probably like this, in between, like that. That's probably how I'll do it if I don't end up using the cording. So I've got this all done. I'm going to unpin this. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the lining, I still have to cut the 2 pieces of lining out. There we go, so the front and the back. So when I sew these, it's going to be facing to facing. So when they get sewn, they'll get sewn like this and then turned inside out. So yeah, facing to facing, it's cut correctly. When I cut the, put that over there, when I cut the insides, again, I want to make sure that one is facing one way, one is facing another. Because when they have to be the inside of the stocking. So I'm going to lay the stocking up here. And I certainly can just use a pen or something to line it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take a pen, get my pen writing here, and just draw my pattern onto the interfacing. And I'm using the stocking because it's just a stiffer fabric. It's easier because it's an Aida fabric to keep it laying flat so I can trace. Okay, and then I want to trace along here. And that's it. Okay, so there's my pattern there. And again, I'm just going to pin it real quick so both the pieces do not move. Okay, so we got that done. Here's my stocking pieces for the interior, and then I have the exterior. The next thing we're going to want to do is stitch the 2 pieces together with the right sides facing together. So we're going to put the stocking, let me get back in frame here, I'm sorry. We're going to put the stocking and the interior face to face. And then we're going to take the other one, which is the back of the stocking, and the interior, again, face to face. And we're going to stitch along the very top. So when we open them up, they're going to open like this. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a minute. I want to get my sewing machine up on the counter, so give me just a minute. Okay, so the next step is going to be to match your front and your interior facing each other, and then your back piece and your interior facing each other. So on this one, I'm going to stitch right where the stitching is, all the way across, and put these 2 pieces together. But on the back, there is no stitching. So what I did was I lined up my stockings like this. Remove my sewing machine just a little more. So I lined up my stockings, I offset it just a little, and I took a pencil and I marked right where the stitching started. And then I did it to the back, and same thing, right where the stitching started, I made a mark. And then I took a ruler and just drew a line. So I know that's where my stitching has to go, is on that line. So now we're going to sew these 2 pieces and these 2 pieces together. I'm going to move my sewing machine over here. My sewing machine is a Janome Magnolia. This was recommended by Vanna Pfeiffer on one of her videos, so I This is a Christmas present my husband gave me several years ago before we left Florida. So, and I do love this machine. It is a great machine. So I'm going to line this stuff up right where I need to line it. And I'm going to start stitching. Did I just break my needle? I hope I didn't just break my needle. Slow my machine down a little so it doesn't go crazy. If I could have drew a line, it would be a little easier to see the line instead of trying to see the stitching through the interfacing. There's my two pieces stitched together, and then I'm going to do the other two. Okay, so that's the end of that. We're going to unpin these. And flip them out. So there they are. And I think I'm going to trim this down, this piece. So I'm going to trim that down to 1/4 of an inch. So let me get my ruler out. Take it down to 1/4 right on the seam line. And I realize I just forgot something. I forgot I was going to put this piece, the hanger, in. So now I need to, let's see, everybody makes mistakes. You got to figure it out. This I wanted in the back here, and it was supposed to go in this seam. So it got hooked into the seam. So I'm going to use a seam ripper. I'm going to pull that out. Let's see, where's my seam ripper? Hold on just a second. Nope, not in there. Never as organized as I'd like to be, ever. There we go. Is it in here? Nope, not in there. See, is it up? There it is. Hold on. Okay, so I have my seam ripper, and I'm going to pull this seam out part way. No big deal. You can put it right back in again. There we go. Pull this out. Trim it off. Figure out how far I want it to go in. Now I do have to sew this. This was the piece of fabric that was 2 inches by, let me see how, so it's 2 by 9. And I've folded it in 1/8 of an inch on each side, and then I folded it in half and pressed it. So it's kind of stuck together from the interfacing, which is just fine. So before I stick this in here, I'm going to quickly run a seam along it. not even worried about locking the stitch in place because it's going to be behind inside the stocking, so it won't be seen. It'll be inside of it. Okay, so now what I want to do is I need to fix this so that it is inside my stocking and away from the seam. So I might want to rip my seam just a little bit more, just so I can get it situated where I want it. There we go. And I know I need at least 1/4 inch or more to put my seam in, so I don't want this to get hit. So I'll make sure it's enough that it's not going to get hit. And I'm going to hold it there. And I might stick it out just a little so I can see where it's at. And then restitch this again. Move my machine back over. Stick it back under. Make sure I've got it held in place where I want it. I think I just picked up all those threads. Okay, so you're realizing that I'm not a professional here. I'm not a professional finisher. I'm just finishing my own projects. So again, I'm just going to make sure that this is in enough. Line the lines back up again. Do a little back stitch so the seams don't come out. And then run forward with this big bulky thing and hope my needle can handle it. And in fact, I might run it back through it. Nope, just messed up my machine. Oh boy. Okay, let's shut it off, back on. See if we can get my needle back down there. This foot that's on here, it rotates wrong. It's probably the wrong foot for me to be using this, but let's see if I can get my needle back in. Come on, needle. No, I may have to change my foot out. Let me get another foot. Let me see if I can pull this out. Let's get this up. Pull this out. And that might have been enough. That might have been enough. I think that was good enough, but I think I need to switch feet because this is not going to work. Some of the feet that I have are not Janome feet, and so they can be a little difficult at times. So we're going to put the Janome foot back on. There we go. Okay, so I think I got that caught good enough. It should be fine. And we're going to trim all these. Let's get this picked up. Trim all these threads that are hanging. Just because they annoy me. And I don't like them hanging. Okay, so I got that in there. Okay, back to where we were. So now we're going to flip it open. You can see there's my hanger. And we're going to put them face to face. So back to front, interior to interior, facing down, and lining up your seams that we just sewed. So we want to make sure, let me see, let me get the threads cut here. Make sure that my seam is pressed real well. And finger pressing is just fine, it works. So there's the first one. We're going to pull on this one And just finger press. There we go. Okay, so now move my sewing machine over, and I'm going to get these lined up so the seams line up correctly. So you want the seams to be right where they're supposed to be. And that's where, oh wait a minute, before I do that, let me cut this off as well, because I cut the other one off to 1/4 inch. I want to cut this one off to 1/4 inch too. There we go. Okay, now we can line them up. So pull it out, face it down, face it up, face this one down. Line up your seams. So I want to get them exactly lined up. One seam facing one way, the bottom is facing this way, the top is facing this way. And I'm going to pin it, because I want them to be right. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. One's facing one way, one is facing another, and we're going to line them up and pin. Okay, so now we want to line up the rest of the stocking, and I'm going to pin it along the way, and I'm probably going to pin in, because I want to run along the stitching. So I want to make sure that I'm not in the way of the stitching when I am pinning this. Now, if I wanted to sew the trim in my stocking, so if I was going to actually sew my trim in the stocking, this is where I would put it in. So I would line it to the inside, line everything up, and do it. But I'm not going to do that, because I know I will get frustrated and I will mess it up while I'm trying to show how to do it. So I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to glue it on. I glued the other one that I did, which was my stocking, which was the Christmas Lighthouse stocking. It came out beautiful. No problems with it being glued. So I'm just going to do the same thing to this one. And if it ever comes loose, I can just glue it again. The stockings at this point will outlive us, so no big deal. Okay, so I've got that there. I'm going to move these pins to the inside that I just did instead of the outside, because they'll be in the way. Okay, so when we're pinning the lining, this is the lining part. When we're pinning that, we have to leave an opening to turn. This is where I decide, where am I going to put the opening? And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it along here. I think that's the best spot, because when it goes in, I'll be able to, well, when we flip it over, I'll be able to stitch that close. It'll go into the toe and it will not be seen. Now you could do it here, you could do it along the bottom, wherever you want to do it. I'm going to do it along there. You could also do it along the side if you wanted, but I'm going to do it. So to remind myself where I'm doing it, I am going to pin and mark with a pencil where I'm going to leave it open to turn. That way I can see it. You can't see it on there, but I can see it. So I will not forget where I am stopping and starting. So I'm stopping here, starting here. One of the other things you have to think about is to know how deep you want your stitching. So again, I'm going to decide before I start stitching if I'm going to leave this 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch seam allowance, or if I'm going to cut it down so I can follow the 1/4 inch mark. So I'll look at it in a minute here as soon as I get this pinned. Okay, so I got that all set. What I just want to see is if I put this in here and I line it up, how is it going to fall? And I think part of what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because it is hard to see the stitching, I think I'm going to cut I'm going to draw the lines, I think is what I'm going to do. That way I'll be able to see where I'm going on my stitching. Make sure I'm staying in line with where I need to be. And this pen is a friction pen. Nope, that's not my friction pen. Why am I using that one? Where's my friction pen? Sure that's not my friction pen? No, it's not. I have friction pens. There it is, right here. That's what you should be using, because the heat will knock it out and you won't see it. So if I put an iron to it, you will no longer see the line. And I'm not too worried about seeing the line because I'm putting cording over where I'm stitching. So it will be covered. On my last one, I used a lightweight interfacing, and I was able to see the stitching a little better than what I can see on this one. So just to make sure that I don't miss it. And I think I'm going to also I'm trying to decide. I think what I can do also is to put a piece of tape where I want the seam to be at all times. And that will help also. So you can always use a piece of masking tape or something. I'm going to line this up with my stitching. Drop my needle down, see where I'm at. And then put a piece of tape along the edge where the fabric should be. Right there. So that'll help me kind of keep it lined up at all times. So that'll help. Especially when I'm stitching this side. So I'm going to start in my toe. Flip this around. And we're going to start right here. And we're going to make sure our thing is out there. And drop my needle. And let's hope for the best. Get this one out of the way. That's in the way. I probably should have did a 1/4 seam allowance around it. It would have made it a lot easier for me to follow. It's catching my sweater. those needles in the wrong direction. Good. And get these needles out. Oh, we're not doing good. Did I break my thread? Uh-oh. Hold on. Something's not right. I guess I broke my thread. Okay. I did all that stitching for nothing. Let's try that again. Okay, there we are. This is where I pray that it's right. Okay, that should be all of them. Shut the machine down. Move it around here. So what I want to do is clip all this extra fabric. So I'm just going to clip it to 1/4 inch. Just be careful not to cut your stitching. Give yourself 1/4 inch. Now you could also just cut it down to 1/4 inch, and that would have saved me a lot of work, but I didn't do that. Okay, I got all that extra fabric off. Now I want to take my little snips and all these little corners and stuff, you just want to snip in on the fabric. Just don't snip in to where the seam is, just close to the seam. And it kind of helps in the process when you open it, when you put it right side up, that it'll form a little better. So I'm just clipping them just around the corners, so the outside and the inside curves. I'm just putting little snips. Okay, we want to do this. And then I want to do this inside curve as well. Then go around and do this inside curve. And then do, that looks like it still needs to be trimmed. There we go. Okay. Now I'm just going to ease up these edges here. That should be good. Okay, now back we go again. My hand in there, all the way down to the toe, grab the toe, and start pulling. Okay, now I'm going to stick my hand back in again and straighten the stocking. Right, seams are perfect. Get my hand in there, poke everything out. Make sure we're giving a good poke out. Get my hand in the corner there, in the toe. And the heel, pushing everything out. Doing the same thing with the inside here. Even though we're going to push it in, we want to get it all set. Okay, I'm going to go iron this again, and then I'll be back with you in just a minute. Okay, so now we've got it all stitched together. Turned right side out, right side out, yeah, not inside out, right side out. And now I need to stitch my toe to get my sewing machine back up here. I have to stitch the toe. And I'm gonna, let's see. Get my needle along the edge there. And I'm going to stitch this up. we can turn our stocking right sides together. I mean, we can put the stocking together the right way. Oh, and I missed part of it. So I gotta go back and fix it. Hold on. I was stitching too close to the edge and I missed it. So I'm gonna flip it back again. Move my needle back again. And pick up where I left off here. There we go. Okay. I think that's it. And now you just take your stocking and stuff your foot into your stocking. So I'm trying to get it in there. There it goes. Grab the heel, press the toe in. Make sure my top is the way I want it. Okay, I'm going to give it one more little press and I'll be right back. Okay, and here it is. It's all finished. So I can leave it just like this. It looks beautiful. Got your inside of your stocking, and the stitching is all up along the stitching all the way around. Very, very little of the fabric showing. And then there's the back of the stocking, which is just adorable. And there it is. Now I can leave it just like that, or I can put the cording on it, which is what I think I'm going to do. And in fact, I'm going to snip this real quick and I want to see what it looks like. Because I think I want to put the cording on it. And like I said, this just snips off. It's just like a basting stitch holding that together. Let's see if I can undo this. There we go. Pull that off. There we go. So there it is. You just got to pull the threads off of it. And that would be the cording. And of course it would go along the edge like this. And I would just glue it along the edge. Now I'm not going to do that right now. It's going to have to wait. Hopefully I'll get it done sometime this week. And again, I just put the glue along the edge of my stocking. I put the cording down, and I do try to keep the cut part. So one of the things I do, and I'll show you, when I'm doing my cording is I will put glue on it to hold it. So the first end that I'm doing, I'm going to put glue. This is just my Aleene's tacky glue all the way around it where I'm going to cut it, because the part that I don't want to unravel. And I put that all the way around, and then I will press it in. I want that glue to really soak in there and hold it. And I'm twisting it to twist it so it doesn't unravel. And there it is. Now that will sit like that for several hours until it dries, and then I will cut it. And it will, you won't see all that. Right now you can see that it looks pretty dark right here where the glue is. It will lighten up when the glue dries, because the glue dries clear. And when I do this, I will do this towards the back. I will start my stocking, and I'll put it down just about a ½ inch down, and I will start going around my stocking because I want the back. Let's see, am I doing that right? Hold on, let me look at my other one. So this was mine that I did. Okay, so I go around the top first. Okay, so this is how I do it. I start in the back, I go all the way around the stocking, all the way back up, and then I start wrapping the front. It's still in the same spot, wrapping the front, wrapping it all the way in the back, and there's the finished end. And you can see, you can barely tell that that's a finished end that's glued. And this is my stocking that I did, which is the lighthouse, the Stony Creek Lighthouse stocking. So I'm really excited to have that done, and then to have his stocking next to mine. They're going to be so adorable together. So I'm so excited. So that's how I put my stockings together. And like I said, I'm going to glue my trim onto here, and I use needles. So I'll glue and I'll poke needles to hold the trim on until it dries all the way around it. And sometimes I do it in sections. So I'm not going to do that right now because that's very time intensive, and it would take up too much video for me to sit here and glue this whole thing and let it dry. But there's the stocking, it's done. That's how you generally do it. You don't have to put trim on them. They look fabulous without the trim. And I hope you found this video helpful. Like I said in the beginning, I am not a professional finisher. I do this just for myself, and I just take steps that I learned from Vonna and from other finishers and just do my own thing. I don't know exactly if this is how Vonna does hers. It works for me. I think it looked beautiful. It came out beautiful. I made a few mistakes. I corrected the mistakes, and you just go on. Not everyone is perfect. I'm not a perfect stitcher. I'm not a straight stitcher. I just do my best, and if it doesn't come out right, I just pick it out, and then I do it again. So if you have a sewing machine and you want to make items, you can do it. You certainly can do it. It's not difficult. You've seen it was very few steps in order to make this into a stocking, and it's just gorgeous, and I love it. And he'll be so thrilled with it, and it'll be hanging on the mantle before I know it. So in the next video, hopefully in a week, I will be able to show you the fully finished one with the cording on it. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions, you certainly can leave them below, but be kind. As I said, I'm not a professional, just showing you how I make my stockings. And I will see you next time. Bye.